And we're live. We're going to go live here in a few seconds. Let some people take some time to jump in. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our speaker series, Voices of Impact, brought to you by BePurposed Collective. Voices of Impact is a dynamic speaker series that amplifies the stories, insights, and experiences of top notch leaders who are driving meaningful change in their industries and communities. Each session highlights authentic voices making an impact through leadership, inclusion, innovation, and purpose. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome as our speaker today, Ari Degrote. Thank you all for joining us today. We will take some time after for questions at the end of the session. With that, I am happy to bring you Ari Degrote.
Excellent. So happy to be here. Thank you for everyone joining. Yes, so I am here to talk about, I can explain a little bit more about my background in a moment, but I'm sure everyone looking around living in 2026, you've noticed it's a bit complex. Things seem to be amping up at a more rapid pace. And so today I just wanted to talk a little bit about leading through that complexity and why adaptive leaders need a multidimensional lens now. So, again, my name is Ari Degrote. I am founder of Upward and Inward, or You and I, because as we'll discuss later, it's all about connection, you and I. I consider myself to be an impact catalyst. I'm a facilitator, a leadership development partner. My work is really focused on helping leaders and teams move from disconnected, siloed activity to connected impact. We all know what disconnected busyness feels like. I would say a big part of the work is helping organizations move beyond simply stacking skills on top of people and more towards deeper capacity building. We're building capacity in people and teams and throughout the interconnections that shape how the whole system or organization performs. Like many of you, I'm guessing, I'm paying attention to what leadership feels like right now. It's uncertainty that doesn't feel clear. It's constant pressure to do more with less, including information, resources, fill in the blank. AI, it's changing expectations faster than most organizations or our human brains can absorb. And we have teams that are technically busier, but they're not usually more aligned, adaptive, or effective. So let's take a breath. That's why that's really a lot, right? As I just rattle those things off, and it's cumulative. But this is exactly why adaptive leadership matters. When people hear that phrase, it can sound really abstract, but most leaders recognize it immediately in real life. It looks like leading when the path is not fully known, when the answer cannot come from one expert alone. You really need the collective and the crowdsourcing ideas. When priorities keep shifting, when your stakeholders want different things. And in this case, I want you to use the expanded idea of stakeholders. Think the employees, your customers, your vendors, the communities you sit in and that you serve. These stakeholders all want different things. So in these situations, there's no rule book or map to follow. We need the collective, and the team actually has to learn its way forward together. So that's where we find ourselves. Today, I really wanted to share the core concept and core model behind my work at Upward and Inward. The model is multidimensional leadership, and this is the lens I'm suggesting we all need in leadership. In complex adaptive systems, I know that's a mouthful, or what Ronald Heifetz and others call adaptive challenges versus technical challenges. So in these scenarios, in these systems, leaders cannot rely only on the management of self or interpersonal skills. Okay, all of that does matter, but the research on adaptive leadership, on complex adaptive systems, and systemic team coaching, that research really shows that the real leverage is in how leaders work the interconnections, not just the individual pieces. So the interconnections look like the relationships, the feedback loops, and the actual teams where value is actually being created. So, what leaders need now is the capacity to lead through these interconnections. I like to think of the interconnections as being within themselves, between people, across teams and systems, and then out into the wider stakeholder ecosystem. So again, the upward and inward model is called multidimensional leadership. It's really built around what I call the spheres of connection. These are, I want you to think multidimensional, okay? There are 4 spheres, and leaders must really work across and flex between these 4 spheres constantly. So I'll go through the 4 and then I can explain a little bit about what each of these mean. Some of it's very intuitive though. So the first is connection within. The next is connection to others, connection through systems, and then connection beyond. Okay. So let's come back to connection within. This is really how you relate to yourself. It's that self-awareness, your growth mindset, your inner world. It's taking responsibility and stepping into your own agency, knowing your patterns, but also your courage, knowing your limits, but also that like kind of growth edge. So that's all encompassing. That's the connection within. Sometimes we can even connect that inner purpose to the organizational purpose when we're working at that level. So the next area or sphere is the connection to others. This is how you build trust. You actually hold tension on purpose because conflict is not the enemy. It's a necessary ingredient to get things moving. So building trust, holding tension, creating accountability with others, and then communicating effectively to help people feel both seen and challenged. You can do both, right? So how do we do that? So connection to others. The next sphere is connection through systems. This is really where a lot of the levers start to be intentionally pulled. You get curious, you see the system, and how do we design something more intentionally? How do you design and work through the structures, the flows, the stakeholder relationships of your organization in a human-centered way, not just for the profit or the productivity or the output, but how do you put humans at the center and design from that? We can treat the team as a living system that creates values at the connections, not just in the parts. So that's the through systems portion. And then the 4th sphere that this model really hones in on is connection beyond. And what I mean by that is it's really the ripple effects outside your 4 walls and out into the future. So it's how you lead with stewardship, legacy, and a deeper sense of what and who your work really serves. So most leaders, actually also teams and leaders, they're naturally overdeveloped in 1 or 2 of these spheres and underdeveloped in others. And oftentimes that imbalance explains why you have a smart, caring, well-intentioned, hardworking leader who is kind of hitting a ceiling and can't quite connect with the team or get the results that on paper or in our minds should be possible. For years, I think most leadership development has focused on stacking skills on top of people, like how to communicate better, time management and productivity hacks, right? We all know these. Better delegation, better performance in the role. So as you hear all of these, none of them are wrong. These skills actually do matter, right? We all know this. But organizations are discovering that these skills alone that sit on the surface are not enough. Again, we find ourselves in complex times and in complex systems. Organizations are very complex systems made up of humans who are incredibly complex. So, in complex systems, what really differentiates great leaders is not skills, it's capacity. It's the ability to work in a web of relationships, constraints, and those interdependencies where honestly authority is limited. Uh, it can't just drive, it's not command and control anymore. We lean more on influence, and this influence really has to travel, not just within your circle, but across teams, cross functionally, outside of, with the relationships and customers, with customers and in the community. And in these systems, no single person can actually see or solve for the whole. You need people working together. And so when we think about skills and all the things that have been done in the past, they're good building blocks. We talk a lot about performance, high performers, high achievers. Heck, I'm even certified in peak performance flow coaching. It's wonderful. And, performance tells us how someone is doing against today's expectations with what is known. But capacity actually tells us whether a person, team, or system can keep learning, can keep iterating, can keep adapting effectively, and therefore creating value as conditions change. And that is our reality right now. So we need to be nimble. Most of us are not leading in these clean org charts anymore. We're leading in webs. These are cross-functional, interdependent teams. We have lots of dotted line relationships. We have whole networks of stakeholders who we're serving at different levels. The demands are shifting, and this complexity is increasing. And a lot of it is unknown. So we have to develop our ability to learn and learn together. In that kind of environment, formal authority does still matter, but the ability to work through these interconnections, that actually matters more. And that's what's holding a lot of teams back, I would say. It's also from an individual level why burnout and disengagement are so common, I find. People keep trying to meet a systemic adaptive challenge with more individual effort. They work harder. This might be you if you're listening. It might kind of hit a little bit too close to home. I know it did for me, and I have to get myself back on track when I notice this. The urge, right, to just push harder. Even communicate more or hone those skills, get another certification, just hold more, right? But the underlying patterns remain unchanged. And that's what really keeps us from making progress that we choose to make. So for example, some leaders are strong in, say, self-management and execution. They perform, they stay organized, they carry a lot, they keep things moving. Others are relationally strong. They communicate really well. They care deeply. People inherently trust them. All of that matters, obviously. But in complex systems, the next level of leadership is not just performing your role efficiently or keeping people comfortable, high engagement and happy, and like, here's a pizza or, foosball in the break room, right? That's not enough for the culture anymore. It's building the individual and collective capacity for people to generate something together that they could not create alone. So that's where the real X factor of teaming lives. And yes, teaming. I want people to begin using it even more as a verb, teaming together. It's that collective learning, iteration, building, and moving towards a common purpose that's very clear. So we don't just need competent individuals doing their jobs side by side, but a team who actually becomes more than the sum of their parts and can do something that you couldn't do off on your own. That's the purpose, kind of brings the team together. There should be that compelling purpose that the team is working to solve for. One of the reasons this matters so much is that the greatest challenges in organizations are usually not sitting neatly inside one person. They show up in the connections, or rather the disconnections, right? And we've probably all experienced this. Disconnections, sometimes inside with ourselves from the purpose of the organization or our fit, the role. But oftentimes it's disconnections inside the team, between teams, and out into the larger stakeholder system, I'll call it, or ecosystem. Again, customers, vendors, internal employees, the communities you serve. So this is a major reason why so many leaders feel stretched right now. The complaints at the top are not just, we need better time management, or people need, pick one, communication training. CEOs are worried about uncertainty, AI impacts that are still very unclear, cyber risk, skill gaps that aren't catching up or keeping up, business model reinvention, and whether the organization is adapting fast enough. That's what's keeping a lot of leaders up at night. So this is all adaptive leadership terrain. I mentioned a little bit just to double click on some of these, because I imagine it's quite alive for many of you listening. What this looks like is a leadership team trying to adopt AI while employees are quietly afraid. Yes, they might be able to do it even though it's hard and new, but they're afraid. What does that mean for their role? What does that mean for the quality of what they're putting out there? What does that mean for trust, the customer trust, right? Like all of these things are very new terrain for us. It can also look like a team that keeps revisiting the same strategic priority, but nothing really seems to change in the execution. It's like we say the things, we nod in agreement in the room, in the meeting, or in your virtual Zoom or Teams box, but then you get out into the wild, it's like not moving. It can also look like a leader who's personally capable, but the cross-functional system around them keeps reproducing the same friction. So even in individual executive coaching, you can have an individual really increase their capacity, but when they step back into that system, it's an immune system. It pushes that behavior out. And so you can see that friction and the patterns underlying that keep us stuck. Oftentimes you'll have like an organization that gets more productive, but not necessarily wiser about what value it's creating. So you have more stuff, more output, more productivity, but for what, right? What value is it creating? For whom? And at what cost? Sometimes these are very important questions to be thinking about and designing around intentionally. So when I think about the type of development leaders need now, I'm less interested in helping them simply optimize for more output. And trust me, I went through my whole, biohacking and performance hacking and all the things. I went through that phase, and it's very compelling. And we can all, you can get a little dopamine hit when you're being really productive. But underneath it all, what is it all for? Um, AI can help organizations produce more quantity. But I believe the deeper question is whether leaders can use this moment to get really clear about what they're solving for, who they're solving for, and how to create more value across the whole human system. Take a minute for that to sit in. So again, like what are they solving for? Who are they solving for? And how to create value, more value across the whole human system. Um, that's the difference between optimization and human-centered systemic value creation.
Ari, what a great talk. I loved every second of it. Being somebody to be able to sit there and listen to it. As people that who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Ari, so I really am honored to have her here. One thing that you mentioned that I'd like to ask you about, you mentioned that there's a lot of uncertainty, and you mentioned cyber risks and skill gaps. Are those the major things that leaders are uncertain about at this present time?
It's a really good question. I hear it come up a decent amount. I do believe that these are more surface level, symptom level than root cause.
Okay.
And so the things that, of course, we need to let you know, I think adaptive leaders and hopefully the people on your teams around you and who you're hiring, if you're at an organization able to hire right now, they need to be able to scan the environment and understand what we're up against. And cyber risk and skill gaps are certainly one of them. Roles because of AI and lots of, again, this interdependency, the geopolitical, all the complexity, right? Roles are changing. And so the skills that go along with that change as well. But beneath that, we need to understand, like, how are we as individuals able to learn and adapt and become agile and plug back into the teams plugging in and working with each other and being able to iterate and learn together. That's what we're really trying to get at. And that's really, a lot of the work I do is longer term with leadership teams, but we do have some short term type of engagements. So these things take time. It's not like a quick fix or any hack or anything like that. But to get at the core is really it's almost like the 5 whys, if you've ever heard of that. Just keep asking to get at, like, what is underneath, and that's where your leverage is. So yes, I hear all those things on the surface, but I think it's about some more common human behavior patterns and things that we can be more.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. It's not a quick fix. It's not like it's a cold or somebody has the sniffles and it's gone in a couple of days. It's something that I'm sure who you're working with, the leaders that you're working with, the organization that you're working with, it's something that you continuously have to work on and continue to work on, because there's no, like, I don't believe that there's any, like, limit where you've actually, like, hit it or hit the mark. There's always something going on. Our world is so polarizing, so there's always something new that comes up that has to be looked at and identified and coming to solutions for sure. Absolutely. So, Ari, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Like I said before, I'm a huge fan of yours. I enjoy listening to you speaking. I could probably listen to you speak for hours and hours. So thank you so much for joining us. For anyone who is listening today, how can they get a hold of you and find out what you do and maybe even work with you?
Yeah, I love that. And thank you so much, Andrew. Obviously, mutual respect, and I appreciate being here. Thank you for having me. It means a lot. So I would love to connect with anyone if you have questions just about anything that I said. Happy to have a quick conversation or dive deeper. Like, I'm all about just sharing knowledge and connections. So you can, find me on LinkedIn, Ari Degrote. Ari, well, it's up there. Yeah, just Ari Degrote on LinkedIn. My company is Upward and Inward. So spell out the inward.com if you're curious, or you can email me. It's Ari at upwardandinward.com. So that'd be great too.
Well, on behalf of myself and my guest speaker today, Ari Degrote, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope you will join us for another edition of Voices of Impact. Until next time, be safe. And remember, everyone, when we lead with heart, impact follows.